Welcome back, horror fans. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most intense and nostalgic slashers of the year, Clown in a Cornfield, directed by Eli Craig. This isn't your average masked killer on the loose story. It's twisted, it's goofy, it's violent, and somehow, it still manages to hit that sweet spot between throwback slasher and modern satire. Based on the young adult novel by Adam Cesare, this movie doesn't waste time trying to be artsy or over-intellectual. Instead, it leans all the way into genre conventions, serving up exactly what it promises: a clown, a cornfield, and a whole lot of chaos. But before we go too deep, this recap includes spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet and want the full experience, you might want to hit pause and come back later. Let's talk setup. The film opens with a prologue set in 1991, a subtle nod to the golden era of slashers. A seemingly innocent Founders Day celebration in the small town of Kettle Springs turns violent. This isn't just a nostalgic choice. It establishes early that this town has a dark undercurrent, one that's been festering for decades. Fast forward to the present day, and we're introduced to Quinn Maybrook, played by Katie Douglas. Still mourning the loss of her mother, Quinn relocates with her father, Dr. Maybrook, to the quiet, conservative, and downright eerie town of Kettle Springs. Her father's goal is to start fresh, but in classic horror fashion, a fresh start in a remote town always comes with baggage. As Quinn tries to blend into the local scene, she meets a rebellious group of teens who make low-budget horror shorts and seem to clash with the town's more traditional residents. From the jump, the tension is thick. You can tell the town is split, young versus old, tradition versus rebellion. Kettle Springs isn't just your average Midwest town. It's practically frozen in time. From the music to the wardrobe to the general attitude, it's like the 1990s never ended. That's not by accident. The filmmakers deliberately lean into the aesthetic, blurring timelines and giving the movie that timeless slasher vibe. Think I Know What You Did Last Summer meets Scream, but with a twisted clown instead of Ghostface. And that brings us to Frendo, the clown. Once the town's beloved mascot for a now-defunct corn syrup factory, Frendo's image has become a relic of better days. But when people start getting attacked and someone dons the creepy, oversized mask, things spiral out of control. It's not long before what started as teen pranks and angsty clashes becomes a full-on rampage. And just like that, Clown in a Cornfield stops pretending to be just a nostalgic throwback. It becomes a sharp, self-aware ride through every slasher trope we love, done with just enough flair to feel fresh. As Quinn gets deeper into the town's underbelly, we start to see just how fractured Kettle Springs really is. The generational divide isn't just a backdrop, it's central to everything. The older townsfolk resent the younger generation, blaming them for the collapse of tradition, morality, and essentially the town's downfall. The teens, on the other hand, are rebellious, bored, and increasingly reckless. They poke fun at the town's values, mock its faded mascot, and create their own version of fun. That fun turns sinister during a nighttime prank when someone dressed as Frendo shows up, and what looks like a joke quickly transforms into something truly dangerous. The early scenes ramp up slowly. You get creepy noises in the cornfield, blurred figures in masks just out of sight, and that unsettling quiet you only hear when something bad is about to happen. Then, during what's supposed to be a harmless party, one teen is violently taken out, and the film kicks into high gear. What makes the violence in Clown in a Cornfield stand out isn't just how graphic it is, it's how sudden and chaotic everything feels. These aren't overproduced or flashy kill scenes like in Final Destination. They're quick, gritty, and unexpected. Eli Craig uses shock like a weapon, pulling viewers in just when they think it's safe to laugh. And yet, the movie never loses its sense of humor. The brilliance of Clown in a Cornfield is how it never lets you forget that it knows exactly what kind of movie it is. The stereotypes are all there. The angsty outsider, the jock with a conscience, the mean preppy girl, the awkward loner, the clueless authority figures. And yes, the town sheriff, who's always 10 steps behind. But here's the twist. Those characters don't just follow the rules. They break them in clever ways. Some die when you expect them to survive. Others step up when you assume they'll run. And woven into the chaos is something deeper. This town is crumbling because it refuses to evolve. And the kids? They're the ones caught in the middle of a generational meltdown. That point becomes more clear as the story escalates. More teens fall victim to the masked attackers. And just like in Scream, we're kept guessing. Is there just one killer, or is this something more coordinated? Visually, the film takes some unexpected turns. Instead of wide, sweeping shots of cornfields and classic horror cinematography, Eli Craig keeps things tight and personal. The close-up shots make everything feel intimate and suffocating, like you're right there in the corn, hearing every stalk rustle, the gap, every breath behind the mask. One area where the film stumbles a bit is the music. It tries to balance 90s nostalgia with modern soundscapes, but the result feels a little generic. It's serviceable, but not memorable. Still, that doesn't take away from the tension or the overall energy. In fact, the rawness gives the movie that scrappy edge, like a fan-made love letter to the genre. And in a way, that's what Clown in a Cornfield is. It doesn't reinvent horror, it embraces it. It leans into everything that makes slashers fun, silly, and scary. It doesn't try to be elevated horror. It tries to be a good time, and it succeeds. By the time we reach the midpoint, the game changes again. The audience is led to believe Frendo is a lone masked figure causing chaos. But then the twist hits, and it hits hard. Turns out there isn't just one Frendo. There are several, and they aren't all rebellious teens. Some of the people behind the mask are adults. The real twist? The attacks aren't random. They're intentional, coordinated, and here's the main deal. It's not just teens behind the masks. It's adults. Yes, the very people who claimed the youth were ruining the town are the ones orchestrating these acts of terror. They've convinced themselves that saving Kettle Springs means targeting its younger generation. In their minds, these kids represent disruption. And their twisted solution? Eliminate the disruption at its source. It's disturbing, not just because it's unexpected, but because it feels real. These aren't fantasy villains. They're community leaders, teachers, and parents whose resentment has grown so deep that they've justified the unthinkable. This is where Quinn transforms. No longer just the outsider caught in the chaos, she becomes the steady presence in a town that's lost its grip on reality. The final act delivers one of the most intense showdowns in recent horror. Quinn stops reacting and starts taking control. Now trapped in a deadly hunt across her own neighborhood, she's navigating betrayal, fear, and the chilling reality that adults she should have trusted are the ones behind the clown masks. There's a standout moment in the cornfield. Quinn, injured and outnumbered, uses a lighter, a can of spray, and pure instinct to fight back. It's smart, resourceful, and satisfying. Eventually, she tracks down the ringleader, someone embedded deeply in the town's inner circle. What follows isn't some dramatic speech or drawn-out fight. It's rough, personal, and direct. The message is clear. A system built on fear and control will always collapse under its own weight. The fallout is real. Not everyone makes it, and even though the immediate threat is gone, what's left behind will never fully heal. Katie Douglas's performance as Quinn is the film's anchor. She doesn't scream her way through it, she leads it. She brings sharpness and grit, never overplaying the fear. She's believable, grounded, and by the end, undeniably in control. This isn't a final girl who barely survives. It's one who adapts, who reads the room, and who makes you believe she can stand toe-to-toe with anyone wearing that mask. By the time the credits roll, Quinn isn't the girl looking for a new beginning. She's the one who stood her ground and changed the course of the story. Clown in a Cornfield doesn't try to be prestige horror. It doesn't need to. What it does is remind us why the genre endures in the first place. It gives us characters worth rooting for. It frames horror as a lens for cultural or generational and emotional conflict. It knows the tropes and uses them with precision, not laziness. And it balances humor, tension, and violence in a way that feels earned. Sure, it's not without flaws. The camera work is more compact than expected. The music, while serviceable, isn't memorable. But those aren't deal breakers. In fact, they give the movie a bit of character, a scrappy indie vibe that separates it from overly polished big-budget horror. And that twist? The fact that the real threat comes from the adults, from authority, that's what makes it resonate. It's not just scary, it's familiar. More than the clown, more than the kills, what sticks with you is the subtext. This film holds a mirror up to the generational disconnect that defines the story. The fear of change, the need for control, The danger of letting resentment lead the way. Even if you don't catch all that, it still works. But if you do, it lands harder. The wins. Pacing. The film moves quickly, wasting no time with unnecessary filler. Tone. It hits the perfect middle ground between suspense and satire. Genre awareness. This isn't mocking horror, it's celebrating it. Effects. The visual moments, while not over the top, pack a punch. Eli Craig's direction, Katie Douglas's lead performance, and the entire supporting cast come together to deliver something that feels sharp, fun, and authentic. No, it's not Hereditary, and that's okay. It's not supposed to be. Where it stumble. Score. The music sometimes feels like it came from a generic template. Visual scale. It occasionally feels more like a streaming release than a theatrical event. Character depth. Some of the supporting characters, especially the antagonists, could have used more development. Still, none of those issues derail the experience. If anything, they make the movie feel more grounded. So here's the bottom line. Clown in a Cornfield is energetic, bold, and completely unapologetic about what it is. It's not trying to elevate the genre. It's here to give you a ride. And if you're a fan of classic slashers with a modern edge, you're in for a good time. You've got a creepy clown, a tense setting, teenage rebellion, and a lead who's stronger than she looks. If that doesn't scream popcorn-worthy horror, what does? Would I recommend it? Absolutely. Grab your friends, grab some snacks, and let yourself get pulled into the chaos. It's the kind of horror movie that doesn't take itself too seriously. And because of that, it works. So what did you think of Clown in a Cornfield? Did the twist hit you the way it hit me? Were you cheering for Quinn by the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read and reply to everyone. If this breakdown gave you something to think about, show some love. Like the video, subscribe for more horror recaps, and share this with a fellow fan. And hey, next time you hear bells in a cornfield, run. Until next time, stay safe and stay spooky.